There are things in this world that should never be called. Forces so ancient, so vast, so completely indifferent to human life that even the gods themselves speak of them in whispers. Every tradition across East Africa knew this. The Maasai knew it, the Kikuyu knew it, the Zulu knew it. The ancient kingdoms of Aksum and Kush knew it. They all had the same warning passed down through generations of priests and healers and warriors and mothers. There are doors that must never be opened. There are names that must never be spoken. There are forces that, once called, cannot be uncalled. A woman named Njeri knew all of this. She had been taught it since childhood. She knew every rule, every boundary, every warning. And on the night the warriors of her village did not come home, she broke every single one of them. Welcome to Dark Whispers. In the time before borders divided this land into countries with names, the Great Rift Valley was the oldest place on Earth. Scientists today will tell you that the Great Rift Valley is where the first human beings walked, where the first fire was made, where the first words were spoken between the first people who looked at each other and recognized something of themselves in another living face. They are right. But they do not tell you the other part, the part the elders know. The Great Rift Valley was not just where humanity began. It was where the barrier between the human world and the spirit world was thinnest. The ancient ones said it this way: when the earth cracked open to form the valley, it did not just crack the physical world, it cracked the spiritual one too. And through that crack, for as long as the valley has existed, things have passed back and forth between the two sides. Most of them were harmless. The spirits of ancestors moving freely, the gentle presence of nature spirits in the rivers and trees and stones, the occasional vision granted to a healer who knew how to stand in the right place at the right time and look in the right direction. But some of what passed through that crack was not harmless at all. Njeri was not called a witch by her people. She was called Machawi, a keeper of the old knowledge, a healer, a reader of signs, a woman who stood with one foot in the ordinary world and one foot in the world of spirits and used that position to protect her community. She was perhaps 40 years old, though age meant little to someone who had spent 20 years learning to move between worlds. She had the kind of stillness that came from absolute certainty, the kind of eyes that made people look away first. She had trained under the greatest Machawi of the previous generation, had learned every plant that healed and every plant that killed, had memorized every spirit that protected and every spirit that destroyed, had studied the deep geography of the spirit world the way a warrior studies the landscape of a battlefield. She knew which doors could be safely opened, and she knew which ones could not. There was one name she had been taught above all others, one force she had been warned about with a seriousness that went beyond ordinary caution. Nagai Maku, the Great Dark. Not a god in the way that other spirits were gods, with personalities and preferences and the capacity for negotiation. Nagai Maku was something older than gods, something that existed before the first god formed a thought. A vast, cold, ancient darkness that had been present since before the universe decided to become anything at all. It could be calmed. Her teacher had shown her how, once, briefly, as a warning. And then her teacher had made her swear on the bones of every ancestor she had ever known that she would never use that knowledge. Njeri had sworn, and she had kept that oath for 20 years, until until the night the warriors did not come home. They had gone to face a neighboring kingdom's army. 40 warriors, the finest men of the village. Fathers, brothers, sons. The young man Njeri had watched grow from a boy into something extraordinary. A warrior named Coke, tall and fierce and laughing, who had kissed his young wife goodbye that morning with the confidence of a man who fully intended to return. They had gone at dawn. By midnight, they had not returned. By the following dawn, still nothing. The scouts sent to find them came back pale and silent, unable to speak about what they had seen at first. Then, slowly, in fragments, the battlefield, empty. Not of bodies. There were bodies, 40 of them, arranged in a circle in the red East African dust, facing outward as if they had died defending something at the center. But at the center, nothing. Whatever they had been protecting, or whatever had come from the center and killed them, was gone. And the bodies themselves were wrong. The scouts could not explain exactly how they were wrong, just that they were. That looking at them produced a feeling deep in the stomach that had nothing to do with ordinary grief. The village elder called Njeri to the council. She listened to the scout's description with a stillness that frightened everyone in the room. Then she asked one question, just one. Were their faces peaceful or afraid? The scouts looked at each other. Neither, the eldest one said finally. They looked surprised, like they saw something they recognized, something they knew, something they never expected to see there. Njeri closed her eyes, and in the darkness behind them, she felt the cold breath of a knowledge she had spent 20 years trying never to use. She sat alone for a full day and night, praying to every ancestor she knew, consulting every spirit she had access to, searching the ordinary spirit world for any answer, any alternative, any path that did not lead where she feared it must lead. There was none. Whatever had taken the warriors, whatever had left 40 men dead in a circle of surprised faces, was beyond the reach of ordinary spiritual work. It was operating at a level that normal healing and protection could not touch. She knew what it was. She had known the moment the scout described the bodies. Only one force in the spirit world killed like that. Only one thing could make 40 trained warriors die with surprised recognition on their faces rather than fear. Something they knew. Something familiar wearing an unfamiliar face. Naimaku did not come as a monster. Her teacher had told her that. It came as something you trusted, something you loved, something you would follow without question into any darkness. And she knew something else. It was not finished. Whatever it had taken from those 40 warriors, their life force, their courage, their years, it had tasted the village, had found it rich and full and worth returning to. It would come back, not for warriors next time, for children. Njeri looked at the sacred bundle her teacher had left her, the one that contained the summoning knowledge, the one she had sworn never to open. She thought of Koheka's young wife, 8 months pregnant, waiting for a husband who would never return. She thought of the children sleeping in the village. She opened the bundle. She went to the edge of the rift at midnight, the place where the earth cracked open, where the barrier was thinnest, where the old knowledge said the boundary between worlds was so fragile that a determined enough will could push through it entirely. She built the fire, mixed the medicines, drew the symbols in the red earth that her teacher had shown her only once, with shaking hands and a voice stripped of everything except absolute seriousness. And then she called the warrior. His name was Simiyu, not a living warrior, a dead one. A warrior who had lived 300 years ago and had been the only person in the recorded history of her people to have faced Nagai Maku directly and survived. He had not survived well. He had survived at a cost so terrible that the stories about him were told only as warnings, never as celebrations. But he had survived, and he had left behind, in the spirit world, in the deep memory of the ancestors, the knowledge of how to face the great dark and live. Njeri called him, and he came. Not as she expected, not as a ghost or a vision or a voice in her head. He came as a presence so vast and cold and ancient that the fire she had built guttered and nearly died. As a weight in the air that pressed down on her shoulders like a physical thing. As a pair of eyes, not visible, not quite real, but absolutely present, that looked at her from somewhere just beyond the edge of what she could see. And those eyes were not welcoming. "You should not have called me," Simiyu said. His voice came from inside her own skull. "Nobody should ever call me. That is why I left no living students." "The Great Dark has been here," Njeri said. "It took 40 of my warriors. It will come back for the children." A long silence. "I know," Simiyu said. "I felt it wake. I felt it feed." "Then tell me how to stop it." Another silence, longer this time. "I can do better than tell you," Simiyu said. "But you will not like the price." "Tell me the price," Njeri said. And he did. The price was this: to stop Nagai Maku from returning to the village, to seal the crack in the world through which it had entered and close the door permanently, required an anchor, a living anchor, something of immense spiritual power, voluntarily given, permanently bound to the seal. Not a sacrifice in the way of blood and fire, something worse, a life, not ended, but suspended. A spirit of sufficient power, willingly surrendered, woven into the fabric of the seal and held there for as long as the seal needed to hold, which was forever. "Who?" Njeri asked, though she already knew. "You," Simiyu said simply. "You are the only person within 100 miles with sufficient power, and it must be voluntary. Nagai Maku cannot be sealed by force or fear, only by love freely given." "And my body?" Njeri asked. "Will continue," Simiyu said, "for a time, weeks, perhaps months. But without your spirit anchoring it, it will fade, slowly, peacefully, like a fire burning down." "And my spirit?" "Will hold the seal, permanently. You will be aware. You will watch over the village. You will be, in every meaningful sense, the ancestor you always told your people to pray to. Except you will have chosen it deliberately, eyes open, knowing the cost." Njeri was quiet for a long time. The fire had burned very low. Around her, the vast, dark beauty of the Great Rift Valley stretched in every direction, the oldest landscape on Earth, indifferent and magnificent. "Will it work?" she asked finally. "Yes," Simiyu said, and there was something in his ancient, dead voice that might have been sorrow. "It always works. That is why the knowledge was never supposed to be used, because it always works, and the price is always the same. Njeri looked back at the village, at the fires burning in the huts, at the sleeping children, at Coach's young wife, whose child would be born in a month into a world without its father. She looked for a long time. Then she turned back to the rift, and she said yes.
What happened next, the living world did not witness. The village slept. And at the edge of the Great Rift Valley, in the oldest place on Earth, a woman of 40 years stood at the threshold between the human world and everything beyond it. And she gave herself to the seal. Not screaming, not fighting, standing straight, eyes open, with the absolute, deliberate certainty of someone who has made the most important decision of their life and made it clearly. The crack in the earth sealed. The barrier between worlds, thin and compromised for centuries at this spot, rebuilt itself around Njeri's spirit like a wound closing around a stitch. Firm, permanent, stronger than it had been before. Ngai Maku felt it from wherever it had retreated to, felt the door close, felt the seal settle into place with a finality that even something as ancient as the Great Dark recognized as absolute. And it moved on, to find somewhere easier, somewhere without a Machawi willing to pay the final price. In the village, something shifted. The elder woke suddenly from a dream he could not quite remember, only that it had been warm, and someone he trusted had been there, and she had said something important that he needed to pass on. Koech's wife woke to feel her unborn child move for the first time, a strong, certain, healthy movement, like a declaration. The children slept deeply and without nightmares for the first time in weeks. Nobody knew why. Not yet. They found Njeri the next morning, sitting at the edge of the village, facing the direction of the rift. Alive, breathing, eyes open, but different. She looked at the people who gathered around her with a gaze that was simultaneously completely familiar and completely elsewhere, as if she was looking at them from a very great distance, as if the part of her that had always been most present, most alive, most urgently here, had moved to somewhere just slightly beyond reach. She spoke. She ate. She continued to do the work of a Machawi. But everyone who knew her felt it, the absence at the center. Like a house where someone beloved has recently moved out. Everything in its place, everything functionally intact, but the particular warmth that made it a home rather than just a building, gone. She lived for 4 more months, quietly, without complaint, teaching everything she knew to the youngest healer in the village, a girl of 14 who had shown the signs of the gift, passing on every piece of knowledge she possessed with a systematic thoroughness that, in hindsight, everyone recognized as preparation. On the last morning, she called the elder to her. "The crack is sealed," she told him. "Tell the children not to be afraid of the rift. What watches from there now is not an enemy." "What is it?" the elder asked. Njeri smiled. For the first time in 4 months, fully and completely. "An ancestor," she said. And by evening, she was gone. But the seal held. It holds still. And in the Great Rift Valley, in the oldest place on Earth, at the thinnest point between worlds, if you stand very still at midnight and listen with more than your ears, you can feel her,
watching, protecting, exactly as she chose. The elders of East Africa say this: every place that feels inexplicably safe, every village that has been protected from disaster in ways that cannot be explained, has an Njeri at its foundation. Someone who chose, someone who paid, someone who loved their people enough to give the thing that cannot be given back. The knowledge was never supposed to be used, but knowledge, like darkness, cannot be unlearned. And love, like the Great Rift Valley, goes deeper than any map can measure. This has been Dark Whispers. The ancient continent has more stories than any history book will ever contain. We will bring you all of them, story by story, whisper by whisper. Subscribe and join us in the dark. The whispers are just beginning.